Japanese Imperial Army treasures in the Philippines. Commonly known hidden treasures in the Philippines today are those that were hidden by the Japanese Imperial Army back at the near end of the Second World War. This is due to the reason that they had left so many clues, even treasure maps, which are a great help in locating their hidden treasures. The clues come in the form of signs, symbols, or markers. You can encounter them on many different places, especially on areas where the Japanese imperial soldiers settled. As for the treasure maps, some of the Japanese imperial soldiers managed to cleverly sneak them out when they surrendered themselves, while some treasure maps got confiscated by the Allied forces. This explains why there are so many foreign treasure hunters with their own treasure maps, searching for the hidden Yamashita treasures. Despite the markers and treasure maps that were left behind by the Japanese Imperial Army, recovering the hidden treasures won't still be that too easy. Still, the signs aren't direct instructions where it needs good analysis in order for them to be interpreted correctly. This is the aspect that most treasure hunters are lacking, especially those who are just starting out on this industry. If you are one among these treasure hunters, you definitely need a mentor or someone who can teach what you need to know. The good thing is that that's one of the objectives of my channel, which is to educate amateur treasure hunters. Thus, if you are new to my channel, then you should subscribe and then hit that small notification bell icon to always get notified about my latest published videos. Now, you might be asking about why the Japanese Imperial Army brought their war loots in the Philippines. Back in World War II, the Japanese Imperial Army rose into power, where they were able to occupy most of the Asian countries, particularly the Southeast Asian countries. So aside from the Philippines, they were also able to occupy Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Burma, China, and India. At the time of their supremacy, Field Marshal Count Terauchi, the officer in charge of all Japanese Imperial Army in the Southeast Pacific area, ordered his high-ranking military officials to plunder all valuable items in their respective occupied territories. As a result, the Japanese Imperial Army looted anything that they deemed valuable. So, they end up taking anything that is gold-related, statues or images, and antiques. No one really knows how much items did they looted in terms of their total value. But one thing is for sure, it is an amount of money, more than enough to rebuild one poor country. Actually, the main reason why Field Marshal Count Terauchi ordered the plunder was due to financial reason. Many countries had cut their economic ties with Japan, where they end up lacking funds to continuously support their war. The Allied forces knew about the Japanese Imperial Army's plan, so in advance, they heavily guarded the navigational routes of the Japanese Imperial Army that goes back to their homeland. Since it was too risky for the Japanese Imperial Army to fight their way through, they devised another clever plan. Instead of Japan, they shipped all their war loots in the Philippines. And being aware that they were already no match against the Allied forces, it was a part of their plan to hide all their treasures on different parts of the country, which they had succeeded. Their second plan was their retrieval operation, which unfortunately, they did not succeed. This plan was to win the trusts and hopes of all the Filipino people. It was indeed a very good plan, but it all failed when the Americans unexpectedly drove them away and invaded the Philippines for themselves. As a result, many of the war loot treasures hidden by the Japanese Imperial Army remain undiscovered. Recently, there was a report claiming that Japan did successfully transport their war loot, where they were able to outsmart the Allied forces. This is why they were able to rebuild Japan in just a short period of time after the Second World War had ended. In my own opinion, this might be true because it was rumored that the Japanese Imperial Army owned several submarines at that time. Thus, they might have used their submarines as cargoes for their treasures. However, it is quite impossible if they were able to transport all of their war loots with their submarines. Although, they might have transported their war loots as they claim, but probably only a small portion of it. There is also an ongoing agenda that the Japanese Imperial Army treasures or Yamashita treasures is just a myth. But, for a person who spends most of his time out in the field, it is a different story. As a treasure hunter, I already came across several various individuals who gained their wealth when they discovered their Yamashita treasures by accidents. Of course, there are also treasure hunters who had great and amazing success. Maybe the reason why the Yamashita treasures is being referred by most sources as a myth is to protect the environment. Treasure hunting excavations do actually contribute heavy damages to the environment, especially when they are left behind as is. Moreover, the Japanese Imperial Army treasure is probably meant for the Philippines. This country, particularly its people, had already suffered a lot of years under foreign rulerships. Just to tell you, the Spaniards ruled the Philippines for 333 years. Through the Japanese Imperial Army treasures, it might give Philippines a better chance for the Filipinos to catch up with all those years and improve their country. Are you new to my channel? You may want to subscribe if you enjoyed watching my videos. If you preferred a reading material, you may want to visit my blogging website at treasurehunt.club. Thank you very much for watching and happy treasure hunting.